Welcome to this Happy Home podcast. I'm Arlene Pellicane. More than ever, girls are being surrounded by lies about who they are and what's important. Best-selling author Dana Gresh is here to talk about her book, Lies Girls Believe, and the truth that sets them free.
Strengthening you and your family. Welcome to the Happy Home podcast with your host, Arlene Pellicane.
I am so happy to have my friend Dana Gresh on the podcast today. She is the founder of True Girl. She's written over 30 books. She's traveled the country talking to tweens and their moms about hot topics that are important to discuss, but sometimes we are afraid to talk about them. And so she talks about the things that we want to talk about that we're afraid to sometimes. And I've been so blessed to present with Dana about topics like anxiety and screen time in True Girl parent workshops. She has been such a wonderful supporter of my books through the years and my recent book, Screen Kids. And now we also have a film, a Screen Kids in their own words, where you can see my family talking about how they have adjusted and even potentially thrived with these tech rules in our home. And you can check that out at happyhomeuniversity.com/film. Dana has a terrific book that's for moms and daughters. It's a set. There's Lies Girls Believe, and then also a mom's guide to Lies Girls Believe. And I wanted to share this episode with Dana again with you because as we prepare our daughters to go back to school, whether they go to public school, private, or homeschool, they need to be equipped to be able to tell between truth and lies, to have that discerning spirit. So let's get started with this conversation with my dear friend, a woman I deeply respect, Dana Gresh. If a mother were to talk about the upside of social media with her daughter, what could those conversations be like to help a girl understand and develop her true sense of beauty and self-acceptance?
Well, don't you think that one of the good things is it's a great teaching opportunity for mom to coach your daughter through comments, perfectionism? Like, I always looked at it as, I'm not going to love everything my daughters see on social media, and I am going to control it to some degree. Like when my girls were on any social medium, I was their first friend.
Yes, exactly.
And I was friends with all their friends.
Gresh, yeah.
Exactly. And, but I just looked at it as an opportunity to be like, hey, why do you think she posted that picture with the duck lips? Like, what is she trying to say? And do you think she really does look beautiful that way? No, she looks silly. Well, so why is our culture saying that that's a beautiful thing? It's a great opportunity to ask questions, which is how I like to parent. I don't know that I did it all the time. I think I probably made more direct statements than I would like to admit, but I think questions are a really great way to figure out what's going on in their heads and hearts and let them lead them to a conclusion that's biblical and true.
I love that.
And social media gives us that opportunity.
Well, we know the numbers, that these kids, they might be ages 8 to 12, and they're averaging 6 hours a day of media use. So how can a parent who hears that and think, wait a minute, I don't want my teen daughter on for hours and hours a day. How can they influence their tween and teen in this healthy direction?
I feel like I should be asking you these.
Well, I need your advice as well. We'll go back and forth.
I've read your books and I've read your blogs and listened to your program. So I think one of the important things that we've done in our home is to have, first and foremost, personal limitations. Mm-hmm. Like we sit down and talk with them about what are your limitations? What do you think would be a reasonable amount of time for you to be on a phone, on a screen?
Yep.
And that conversation is usually formed by talking about priorities. Mm-hmm. So we would put out, sometimes we'd write on an index card all the priorities. So it might be family time, homework, school, brush my teeth and body care time, all the things.
Right.
And then screen time.
Yeah.
And when they look at that, when they look at those cards or that list, they kind of get it. They're like, oh, there's other things that come first.
Right. Exactly.
My screen isn't the center of my universe.
Right. I smell. I should take a shower.
Exactly. I can't find my bed. I should put my dirty clothes away. So again, just using logic to lead them to their own decisions. And then if they don't make good decisions, of course, you're still the parent and you have to be the parent and establish those limits. And I think one of the shocking things for me as I was researching for Lies Girls Believe was just how direct the correlation is between the advent of social media and a rise in anxiety and depression among girls.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you could possibly link it to.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I completely agree. I could not agree more.
And, this is an interesting, weird thing that I just was researching last week. But the impact of eye contact on our emotions is so significant. Eye contact reduces stress. Eye contact makes us feel confident and peaceful. Eye contact, when we're making eye contact with someone and they're making eye contact with us, we feel more respect for that person and we feel like that person is more sophisticated. So social media robs us of all of that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying, I love social media. I think it does have good purposes, but we have to be careful that we're not robbing ourselves of those healthy interactions with people that keep our emotions functioning well and our brain neurochemicals working.
It's so good because that time that you're spending looking at your phone, you are now not looking at a person. So it's not necessarily that what you're looking at is so bad. It's what you're missing. It's like that whole 15-minute little extra time you had. You could have been talking to someone and looking them in the eye, and it would have been so much better.
How many of us as moms need that reminder right now? I'm constantly like, don't be that one. Don't be that person that's like at the lunch table with all your friends and you're all like posting to Instagram instead of looking at each other, interacting with each other, enjoying each other. We're like, gee, how many people think I'm important right now? Let me post this picture of my breakfast on Instagram. We need to back away from the phones.
Yes. Yeah, that's for moms and that is for girls.
Which book of yours did I read that convicted me of my marriage?
It was Calm, Cool, and Connected. Your spouse is more interesting than your phone.
That's the one.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, Bob and I go to bed every night and sit beside each other while we do our last scroll through email and social media and texts. And I stopped when I read that.
Yeah.
I was like, I am saying that my phone is more important to you. The last thing I do is see what affirmation I can get from my friends on my social media feed rather than affirming you and receiving affirmation from you. That was very convicting to me.
That is a big, and then since you made that little step, I bet it's much better.
Yeah, but I slip all the time.
It's totally true. And, we have, my husband, James, and I have the similar kind of thing where after dinner time, unless we have something pressing, that we turn off the computer so that we're more present with each other. But then we'll slip up all the time. Like he'll start doing an email, then I look, oh, he's doing email, then I'll start doing my email. And then you go back and forth. So it is this decision. And then you go back and you fix it. It's a decision and you go back and you say, let me do this again.
Exactly. When I read that, I started plugging my phone in across the room, across the bedroom, so that I would plug it in, get into bed, and I couldn't look at it. It wasn't right there beside me. But then we moved to another bedroom in the house, and I started plugging it in next to my nightstand, on my nightstand again, which is I need to fix again.
Yeah. So it's like environment of how to fix things. And as moms, we can help our girls do this also. I have a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old now. So what would you say to the moms out there? Like, what are those key conversations? We can be overwhelmed. Like, oh, there's so many things to talk about with our girls. Just help us get started. What are some key conversations we should be having with our tween daughters?
Well, I think probably the answer lies in the conversations you're afraid of having with your daughters.
Yes.
As I did focus groups across the entire country with moms before I wrote Lies Girls Believe and a Mom's Guide to Lies Girls Believe, and I kind of identified 3 main lies that we as moms tend to believe, and I have to be the first to fall on my sword and say, yep, those have been active in my life. And one of them was, she's too young to talk about fill in the blank.
Right.
So it might be sex, it might be gender, it might be social media, it might be pornography, it might be having a boyfriend. what was most alarming to me was that many moms put spiritual formation in that category. They feared that if their daughters made important spiritual decisions before a certain age, that they might not really be meaningful.
Right.
Oh, how dangerous a lie that is.
Yeah.
Because the research really indicates that what we believe by our 13th birthday is generally what we die believing. That's a statement, a quote by George Barna, a Christian researcher who really researched the value formation and beliefs, moral values of emerging teens. And if we aren't having conversations with them about those things that we're really, let's be honest, we're afraid to talk about, the silence that we offer our children becomes a megaphone for the world to form their values, because something's going to.
Right.
So I would say the answer is, if there's any fear in your heart about a topic, ask yourself why, because God's word says that he does not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and peace. So when we talk about those things that form values, we should feel power and love and peace if God is in that conversation. Yeah. If we don't feel that and we feel fear, we have to say, where is it coming from? I think the most common thing I found women would say, it's coming from my past because I have wounds in my heart. Like one woman would say, I don't want to talk to her about body image issues because I'm still not over mine. And I'd be like, well, that's where we start. How do we heal your heart? So go and do the work that God needs you to do, because that is an important part of your daughter winning the victory.
It is amazing how God gives us children and we work on ourselves, and our kids can be part of that process, and they can see, well, mom struggles with that too. And that could be a connecting point.
And that's okay to say. You know, one of the areas where we saw moms really struggling was that area of body image. Because they would be looking in the mirror and being like, I don't like my legs are too short, or I don't like my nose, or my teeth don't fit into my mouth, or I don't like the color of my hair, whatever. That self-loathing was caught by their daughter. And I like to say that when it comes to the topic of beauty, the truth is better caught than taught. So you could say to your daughter, you're a masterpiece created by God. You were woven together in my womb. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. But if you don't believe that about yourself, she's going to have a really hard time believing it.
She really will. And she'll say, but Mom, I came from you. Listen to what you say about yourself, Mom. So we have to believe it also. Yeah.
Our daughters look at us. Your daughters look at you and say, my mom's gorgeous. My mom's smart. My mom's intelligent. My mom's the bomb. And then when mom verbalizes that she's not okay, they say, well, if she's not okay, then I must not be okay. We have to win this battle in our own hearts.
I love that. Kids are growing up so fast. I have the elementary school daughter in 4th grade, and I see these 4th, 5th, 6th grade girls coming out of school with holding their phones and having their sayings on their t-shirt and wearing their tight jeans. And I'm like, those kids look like they're in junior high or high school or something. So what advice would you give us for keeping our girls younger, and also, having those conversations so they know it is okay to be different?
I think one of the important things for us to know as moms is that going along with that mentality does increase risk in our life. The American Psychological Association did a 2-year study of tween and teen girls and found that in those tween years, ages 8 and 12, if they were being branded, I have to have this brand jeans, if they were starting to feel the pressure to buy makeup and clothes, if they were wearing those t-shirts with the more mature slogans, if they listened to music that was all about love and relationships and dating, watched television programs that were really more mature, that it put them on a conveyor belt to eating disorders, body image issues, depression, and even perhaps an early sexual debut. So it matters. She's not ready for that stuff yet. And so saying no is a good thing. So I think first is for us as moms to be like, this is a risk.
Yeah, and have that why in place. Like there's a reason why we say we're not going to buy that. You're 10 years old. You don't need to be wearing, colored lip gloss. You're 11. There's no way we're going to buy that for you. So you have that why in place.
Yeah.
What would you say to the mom that's like, okay, I've already done that. Like half her wardrobe looks like that. How might she backpedal and get that girl back on track?
Yeah, it's never too late. I was not afraid to tell my girls, I messed up here. Mm-hmm. We're off track.
Yeah.
Let's do this differently. For me, an area where I was off track was in the amount of money they were allowed to spend. I was doing pretty well with modesty, age-appropriate clothing, right, not overly branding her. But the way I emotionally compensated for myself, right, I spend the money, buy the really, really nice sweater. And then I realized I was creating little greedy, grimy, gimme monsters, Right. So I went to my pastor's wife. She's a really big Dave Ramsey fanatic, and she does the Financial Peace University for our church. And I said, what do I do here? And so she said, do the envelope system for back to school shopping.
Yeah.
That's a big part of Dave Ramsey's course.
Right.
So my girls got an envelope, and instead of me saying, you only have this much money or you can't buy those jeans, they got the envelope, they opened it up, they're like, wow, we're rich. Right. Until they got into the mall and realized how much things cost.
Yes.
But you know what? It was awesome. Mm-hmm. I did not have to set the limits. They set them themselves. Suddenly my girls became bargain shoppers.
Exactly.
What are the cheapest name brands? Right. Can we go to Goodwill? And
totally.
And it kind of fixed itself. But I did say, I apologize. I think I've been doing this wrong. We're going to start with this envelope system. And they loved it. Yeah. They loved it. So just say, I've done it wrong. Let's push reset.
I love that. When you're out in the country and you're talking to these different moms, was there something that you kept hearing over and over again? And perhaps that's, a lot of what we're going to read, obviously, in the book, Lies Girls Believe.
Among the moms, there's this double-sided coin of a lie that we tend to believe. One is, I can't control what she believes, so it doesn't matter what decisions I make. Mm-hmm. And the other is, I can control. I am supremely in charge.
Correct.
She will believe everything I tell her to believe. She will act every way I tell her to act. And the interesting thing is moms were like, I am great at wearing both of those hats in the same day. They'd be like, I can't control what she believes. Moms kept using the word comatose. They'd be like, there were times when I just feel comatose. Mm-hmm. She would come home with mean girl moments or bullying as a conversation. And I would just be like, I don't know what to say. I'm overwhelmed. I don't know how to fix this friendship drama. So they didn't. They would kind of succumb to the comatose. And I identified with that. I remember emotions like that. I still feel that way sometimes with my young adult daughters. And then on the same days, sometimes I would want to give myself the Mother of the Year award because I would be like, I got this. One of the passages I studied as I was writing this book was Genesis 3, when Adam and Eve sinned. And I looked at it through the lens of parenting, which is a real kick, like to see how God the Father interacts with them. And something I came to understand is he set up this boundary. Don't eat that fruit. Don't eat from that tree. But he still gave them access to it. He could have built a moat around it so they couldn't get to it. He could have caused the tree not to blossom so it didn't have fruit. He could have controlled it, but he didn't. Mm-hmm. He said, this is the truth. These are the boundaries. Then he gave them space. When they blew it, he didn't come in and say, I told you. He asked questions. Where are you? Hello. He was the God of the universe. He knew where they were. And he asked, what did you do? Mm-hmm. Again, he was the God of the universe. He knew. And to me, that informs me as a parent when my kid messes up. I don't have to run in and say, you messed up. This was the rule. Right. But engage in questions. Find out what's in their heart. Parent out of that heart of grace. I think God brought a lot of grace in the Garden of Eden. Yes, there were consequences. But before those consequences, there was conversation. And then there was comfort. conversation and comfort. He gives them garments of fur, right? Like how practical is he to comfort them? So that I hope that that's really an eye-opener for parents as they look at Genesis 3 through the lens of a mom.
Are there any other closing comments you want to make?
I think there's never been a generation that's in more trouble in terms of untruth. We didn't have to grow up where there was so much confusion about gender and relationships and marriage. We didn't grow up on the backdrop of a post-Christian culture, and our girls are growing up on that.
Yes.
So it's so much more vital to plant truth in our girls. We can't just be passive and expect that the culture will pass truth on to them. We can't expect the culture will pass on untruth.
The opposite, absolutely.
Yeah. And so we have to be intentional.
The Bible tells us that when we know the truth, it sets us free. And when our girls hear truth, it's attractive to them. If you have a young daughter, I highly recommend Dana's books, Lies Girls Believe and the Truth That Sets Them Free, and The Mom's Guide to Lies Girls Believe. I have gone through these books with my daughters, and I highly recommend them. And if you haven't seen our documentary yet, Screen Kids in Their Own Words, you can kind of find out what life without social media might look like. And this would be a really encouraging thing for maybe a middle schooler to watch or an upper elementary school girl to watch, just to see what is possible. If you have enjoyed this podcast, I invite you to write a quick review. That means so much, and recommend it to your friends. You can find this podcast on accessmore.com, on the Access More app, and anywhere podcasts are found. You don't have to come from a happy home to create one. Until next time, remember, you too can have a happy home.